On the news, Labour Congress considers 1 million naira as new minimum wage. 4 killed in renewed attack on Plateau villages. And NDLEA urges state governments to prioritize substance abuse prevention. Glad to have you join us on News Now on TV 360 Nigeria. I'm Tamilore Akinkolie. Now, 4 persons have been reportedly killed by suspected headmen in what looks like renewed attacks on 2 villages in Miango district of Basa local government area of Plateau State, north-central Nigeria. According to the National Publicity Secretary of Irigwe Development Association, David C. Mallison, the assailants launched an attack on Inkaza community in Miango district of Rigwe Chiefdom in the early hours of Monday, where 3 persons were killed and was severely injured with machete cuts and receiving treatment at a medical facility. The 4th death was recorded in another attack in a different village on Saturday night, while a car ambush occurred on Friday where the vehicle was burnt and 1 person sustained injuries. Now, the leadership of Rigwe Nation through the Traditional Council and Development Association described the resurgence of attacks and killings as callous and barbaric. The president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, has said that if the ongoing inflation remains persistent, the organized labour might push for a new minimum wage of up to 1 million naira for Nigerian workers. Ajaero said the demand from the organized labour would be influenced by the cost of living, which has been increasing since President Bola Tinubu assumed office, majorly because of the removal of fuel subsidy and other policies. Now, both the NLC and Trade Union Congress last Thursday issued a 14-day strike notice to the federal government, expressing frustrations over its failure to implement a 16-point agreement signed in October 2023. Both unions are demanding that the government fulfill its obligations within the stipulated 14-day period starting from Friday, February 9, 2024. Now, joining me to discuss this further is Global Affairs Analyst Achike Chude. Thank you for joining me. Now, from your perspective, how likely is it that the Nigerian Labour Congress will be able to push for 1 million naira as the new minimum wage for workers now, considering the current economic climate and government policies?
Well, obviously, there's a basis for that. And, Joe Ajaero, the NSC president, put their demand in the context of the rising inflation in the country today, because it is very clear that inflation is taking a lot of money from people's pockets in the country, and that whatever you pay, even if you pay 200,000 today, they will still not be able to do a lot with the money. The prices of everything have skyrocketed. Food inflation is about 33% now? And then the general inflationary trend in the country has continued to be on the rise. And so you're not just talking about foodstuff, you're talking about even housing. Landlords have increased their rent a long time ago. You're also talking about school fees for the children. You're talking about clothing. So their life today has become very brutish and hellish for a lot of Nigerians. And but obviously, one understands the context under which he made this statement. But I'm sure even when he made that proposal, or he dropped that 1 million naira as the basis for negotiation for the new minimum wage. Even he knows that it's not going to happen. It's not going to get it because of the deep contradictions within our economy today. The reality is that the political class has misused the opportunities they have to govern this country, and have pushed this country into a deeper economic morass. And so life itself is very, very difficult today. 1 million naira would sound outlandish, I would say, to a lot of Nigerians. But when you look at, again, the way our politicians have been living, the way they have been spending money, even the inauguration committee, the inauguration of even the minimum wage, the 37-member committee of the minimum wage committee. The president budgeted a whopping 1 billion naira for it, releasing about 500 million. Now, that is the height of financial recklessness. 500 million, 1 billion naira for people that are going to sit down and talk. So it gives you an idea that, that the way the politicians are spending our money, in spite of all the economic difficulties, gives the impression that there is money somewhere. And so when Labour makes this demand, it might not be too far-fetched because of what they have seen coming out of the members of the political class.
Now, all right, so what are the potential consequences for private employees and employers if the proposed minimum wage increase were to be enacted?
It's not going to be enacted. I mean, not in this form. Again, where the 1 million, like I said, is just a proposal that on the surface looks far-fetched. But again, if you look deep down at the economy, you realize that perhaps anything close to 500,000 might begin to do the work, to do the deal. But I know that the federal government is not going to do that. They even find it difficult to pay 30,000 naira, not because, again, as a minimum wage, not because the money is not there, but because the politicians prefer to steal these things, to loot the treasury, rather than pay their employers, their employees. So obviously there are consequences, especially for the private sector. The private sector is struggling so much now. They have had to cut down on production in terms of production, capacity. They have had to cut down. A lot of companies have had to leave the shores of this country. Those with foreign connections have had to leave Nigeria. And those that are still left are busy cutting down and increasing price, cutting down on cost of production, increasing prices almost every 1 week or every few days. They're increasing the prices. And that is the only way they can remain in business if they don't do all of this. So there are consequences. And so when you have a minimum wage that is agreed in the public sector, it is going to have consequences in the private sector. And that's why this negotiation does not only involve members of the public sector, that is the government at the federal level and the state level. It also involves organized private sector, Nigerian Employers Consultative Council, NECA, and all the other organizations, umbrella organizations of employers. They are also there because there are implications. So they are involved in this negotiation, knowing that whatever happens at the public sector, we have implications for them.
All right, Global Affairs Analyst Achike Chude, thank you for lending in your thought, and we look forward to a better Nigeria. Now, moving on, President Bola Tinubu has charged the armed forces to continue to protect Nigeria's territorial integrity against all threats, commending them for their dedication to duty and sacrifice for the nation. Now, speaking at an event marking the Diamond Jubilee of the Nigerian Defense Academy in Kaduna on Saturday, the president assured the military of his administration's commitment to his welfare, as well as unflagging support in the discharge of his duties. The president also commended the past and present leadership of the NDA for the quality of military and academic training.
It is heartwarming to know that just 4 years after independence, the first batch of 64 Army and Navy cadets commenced training at NDA. I understand from history that those sets graduated straight into the Civil War. I understand that other giants and thread recorded in NDA include the establishment of postgraduate programs, the creation of research centers and centers of excellence to facilitate research and enable cross-fertilization of ideas. The consistent academic calendar, devoid of industrial disputes and strike, should make the NDA Postgraduate School an institution of choice, not only for Nigerian students, but also for students across the globe.
The Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, NSIB, has announced collaboration with the United States National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, in the investigation of the crash that killed the co-founder and group CEO of Access Bank. This was disclosed in a press statement by the Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection of the NSIB, where it said following the crash, the Director of the NSIB, Captain Alex Bade, established contact with the NTSB since individuals involved were persons of interest to Nigeria. The statement added that the NTSB investigation is usually structured in 3 phases, of which the report from the preliminary investigation will be released in 14 to 21 days, and that the duration of the investigation will span between 18 to 24 months. Additionally, the French Bureau of Inquiry and Analysis for Civil Aviation Safety will be part of the investigation since the helicopter involved in the crash was being manufactured in France. The Chinese community in Nigeria has vowed to strengthen its ties with Nigeria further for individuals and societal progress as nationals in Lagos gathered to celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year, also known as the Spring Festival. The event, which was held over the weekend, marked the beginning of the Wood Dragon for the Chinese community. The celebration entailed an exchange of cultures, bringing the beauty of China closer to Nigerians. This next report has more details. Amidst the captivating lights and intricate decorations, Festac Lagos came alive as the Chinese community welcomed the Year of the Dragon, delighting attendees with mesmerizing cultural performances and historical dances. Speaking on the significance of the event, the Consul General of China in Lagos emphasized how celebrating the Year of the Dragon, which symbolizes success, power, and new beginnings with Nigerians, underscored the efforts to bolster bilateral relations and conveyed goodwill from China to Nigeria.
I'm so glad that I can together with so many Chinese and Nigeria people to celebrate Chinese New Year of Dragon. So I'm glad that I can see a lot of Nigerian people, they want to know, to understand Chinese culture, and they love Chinese culture. You know that culture knows no boundaries. So I'm glad that Spring Festival is the Chinese festival, but it also belongs to people from all over the world.
Give it back, give it back.
Echoing the sentiment, Black China, a Nigerian citizen now based in China, attributed part of his life success to the contributions of the Chinese community.
While I was schooling in China, my living expenses, my feeding, my tuition, everything concerning me, the Chinese government took care of it. And that's why now that I'm in Nigeria, I came down with them. They are in Nigeria as well. I have told myself that whatever they need, that I know that is for the good of Chinese and Nigerian, I must do it.
For some Nigerians, the cultural exchange between Nigerians and the Chinese community has facilitated a deeper understanding and appreciation of traditions, customs, and values.
I have a very strong bond. Checking from our flags here, we flagged them, and the majority of our customers in the hotel, they are Chinese. We have a very strong collaboration. Like I said earlier, we together sponsor events for the community in such a way that we bring up our children to come to light, to understand what it is to be a good children and to become something in life. We're really working with them in order to make our country better.
As the illuminating displays and cultural showcases unfolded during the event, Nigerians embraced the opportunity to immerse themselves in Chinese customs and language, fostering a spirit of mutual understanding and fostering a growing relationship between the two nations. Tamilore Akinkolie, TV360, Lagos. And in a concerted effort to address the pervasive issue of substance abuse, prominent figures such as Senator Oluremi Tinubu, Attorney General of the Federation Lateef Fagbemi, and NDLEA Chairman Mohammed Buba Miwa have underscored the imperative for state governments to prioritize the fight against drug abuse. During the inauguration of a two-day training on drug prevention, treatment and care organized by the NDLEA for spouses of state governors in Abuja, Attorney General of the Federation Lateef Fagbemi commended NDLEA's initiative in leveraging the forum to extend anti-drug effort to grassroots levels. NDLEA Chairman Miwa also emphasized the grave consequences of substance abuse on public health and the environment, advocating for a comprehensive approach to curb the scourge.
We cannot go far in our effort to curb illicit substances if we are not offering treatment for those already fighting the challenges of dependence on the substances. In this regard, I must bring to your attention the acute shortage of rehab centers in Nigeria. Some states do not have even one rehabilitation center. Please, Your Excellencies, we recommend a minimum of 3 rehab centers per state, 1 per senatorial district, and if possible, 1 of those 3 ought to be for women only.
I think it is very important to bring the assistance and the services as close as possible as we can to the actual persons that need those services. So we need to move basically from a concept where we have treatment centers, maybe at state capital, maybe at senatorial district, to much closer move those services to the people actually affected by drug abuse. And that is not only those ones that are using drugs, but also their families and their friends.
Your involvement in this training underscores the your commitment to combating the scourge of drug abuse and its devastating effects on individuals, families, and societies. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the issue of drug abuse is not confined or limited to any particular or located to any particular region or social strata. It is a challenge that affects every corner of our nation.
News now will now take a breather here, but still to come. International Monetary Funds (IMF) says Nigeria is currently facing worsening economic crisis. Details of the story right after this break. Welcome back. Now let's take you through our top stories. Then the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, has said that if the ongoing inflation remains persistent, the organized labour might have to push for a new minimum wage of up to 1 million naira for Nigerian workers. Ajaero said the demand from organized labour would be influenced by the cost of living, which has been increasing since President Bola Tinubu assumed office, majorly because of the removal of fuel subsidy and other policies. We also told you that in a concerted effort to address the pervasive issue of substance abuse, prominent figures such as Senator Oluremi Tinubu, the Attorney General of the Federation Lateef Fagbemi, and NDLEA Chairman Mohammed Buba Miwa have underscored the imperative for state government to prioritize the fight against drug abuse. NDLEA Chairman Miwa emphasized the grave consequence of substance abuse on public health and the environment and advocated for a comprehensive approach toothbrush to curb the scourge. Now, in case you missed any of the news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on Limas World TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei App Gallery, and Apple Store. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. It's time for business news. Okpeyemi Owosheni has the latest update. Okpe, over to you.
Thank you, Tamilore. Hello and welcome to Business News. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has issued a concerning assessment of Nigeria's economic situation, highlighting stalled per capita growth, widespread poverty, and heightened food insecurity as key contributors to the ongoing cost of living crisis. This report from the global financial institution comes at a time of mounting challenges for Nigeria, including soaring inflation rate, currency exchange difficulties, sluggish economic growth, and a significant number of business closures. The report titled IMF Executive Board Concludes Post-Finance and Assessments with Nigeria underscores the critical issues plaguing Nigerian economy, with one major factor identified as inadequate revenue collection, which has severely constrained the government's ability to deliver essential services and invest in public infrastructure. Still on business, President Bola Tinubu has said his administration is revolutionizing agriculture to make Nigeria self-sufficient in food production and a net exporter of agricultural products. The president disclosed this when he received a delegation from the Global Tijanaya movement led by Khalifa Mohammed Mahini Has at the presidential villa in Abuja on Sunday. During the visit, the president outlined plans to bolster agricultural activity through various initiatives, including the expansion of farmland, the provision of low-interest loans to farmers, and investments in irrigation infrastructure.
We noticed, some problem with hunger. When you see the war in Ukraine, in many other places, you can't easily grow food like mine. We will be able to feed ourselves. We are going to cultivate more farmlands. We are going to equip farmers with low interest or no interest loans. We are going to bring tractors into this economy. We are going to invest in irrigations for this country. Nigeria will become net exporters of food. That is the sooner.
We'll go on a break and be back with stock market reports. Nigeria's equity markets began the first weekday of trading on a positive note, increasing by 0.18% and leaving the market cap at 55.84 trillion. Now, in the aggregate, 125 NGX-listed equities participated in trading, ending on a positive note with 32 gainers against 23 losers. NCL Nigeria led the gainers with a 10% share price appreciation, closing at 4 naira 40 kobo per share, followed closely by Champs PLC, which closed at 2 naira 75 kobo per share. Now, at the the end of the first weekday of trading on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, NGX, a total of 242 million volumes of shares were exchanged in 8,715 deals, corresponding to a market value of 5.125 billion naira were traded. Now let's take a look at our select global stock. Japan's Nikkei remained unchanged as it celebrated China's Lunar New Year celebration, leaving it at 0.093%. However, European stocks rose on one day as world stocks were steady at their highest in more than 2 years, leaving our select global stock, the UK FTSE and US Dow Jones in the bulls at 0.029% and 0.28% respectively. Well, that's it on both business and stock market reports. Back to you, Tamilore, for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Opayemi. Now on the global scene, the West African Economic Group, ECOWAS, and the European Union says they are trying to find ways to manage a political crisis in Senegal created by the postponement of the presidential election that was scheduled to take place later this month. In a press release published last week, ECOWAS called on Senegal to urgently restore the electoral calendar. Nigeria's president and head of ECOWAS, President Bola Tinubu, has also traveled to the country to call on President Macky Sall to respect the constitution of his country and avoid plunging Senegal into a sustained crisis. Over the weekend, protests against the postponement grew and violent clashes with the police resulted in the killing of 3 students in Dakar, the country's capital. And on sport, in a dramatic Africa Cup of Nations final showdown on Sunday at the Alassane Ouattara Olympic Stadium in Abimpe, Abidjan, the Super Eagles faced a tough defeat against the host Ivory Coast, concluding the match with a scoreline of 2-1. Nigeria appeared to echo their earlier 1-0 victory over the Ivorians at the Abimpe Olympic Stadium during the group stage, with captain William Trust Ekong, who previously scored the win with a penalty, rising to head in the opening goal late in the first half. Now, despite initial doubts from some Nigerians about the Super Eagles' journey to the AFCON final, their impressive performance throughout the tournament sparked hopes for a 4th trophy. However, the final outcome of the games left fans heartbroken as Ivory Coast emerged victorious.
I watched the match with my brother and a few friends at home, and we were really looking forward to the match for Nigeria to bring it home though, but it didn't happen. There were lots of reasons why I feel messed it up, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it anymore. We just have to move on. It's really painful though.
The problem came when Pesero decided to play Chukwueze instead of Simon, Lukman and Osimhen, which he have used since the beginning of this tournament. Only for him to gamble. I don't know what happened. Maybe he wanted to use Simon when the Ivorians would have been tired. Understand? But it didn't work out for him.
We started the game so well, and everything seemed like it was in our favor, but you could see as time went on, everybody relaxed. And then the tactics of the coach also affected the way we played, because I don't know if I should talk about that right now, but then the tactics of the coach was not adaptable. As soon as he saw that the midfield was getting overrun, he would have made changes. People like Iwobi, they were not playing so well, but then he kept them on for so long and he affected the way the match went because the midfield was overrun. They controlled the game. They controlled possession from that whole, the poor midfield that we had. So it was a terrible result from coming 1-0 up in the host country's house. We could have kept that result, kept possession a little bit more, and created more chances and stopped them from having the ball and creating any chances. But we couldn't do that, so it was very, very disappointing.
The changing does not mean anything that make them to be weak. And voters were so serious, they advised them to come up. You understand me? And they come out full force and go into somebody's ground. You know what it is. You know what it is. They are the defending champions on their ground. They can't come to Nigeria and play us like that. You know what it is. They cannot beat us. Nigeria reaching final. It's not a day job. They tried a lot. I was okay. I was better at the last time. At the ending of the game, that is where the Super Eagles get weak. That's where I was touched. They're supposed to finish the game with full force.
And that ends our bulletin on News Now. Many thanks for watching. I'm Tamilore Akinkwele.